Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Raymond Williams' Modern Tragedy. History of Tragedy continues, second part. Neoclassical Tragedy. All drama after Renaissance is secular. The only fully religious drama is the Greek. Elizabethan tragedy is completely secular. However, there are some Christian elements in it. Neoclassicism gave rise to secularization because tragedy during this period was critical rather than moral or metaphysical. The emphasis on rational morality affected the tragic action in that it related suffering to moral error. This being so, the tragic action required to show moral scheme. This gave rise to poetic justice. The spectator will thus be moved to live a life of virtue and shun vice. Such a view of morality is incompatible with the actual living. In actual life, man is not rewarded or punished in exact proportion to his virtue or vice. This new morality was consequently set aside. Hegel and Hegelians. In secular tragedies, the moral scheme is governed by poetic justice. Hegel did not reject it, but he described it as ordinary morality, and the work that embodied it is not a tragedy but a social drama. To Hegel, the essential point in tragedy is not suffering but its cause. Mere suffering is not enough, but the suffering that comes from a special kind of action. This gave rise to the role of character. Genuine tragic suffering is that which emanates. This gave rise to the role of character. Genuine tragic suffering is that which emanates from the characters. The tragic character must be free to choose action, to choose his action. Hegel does not recognize the suffering which emerges from external circumstances, chance, death, loss of property, etc. Tragedy should result from conflict between two opposing forces, family and state, parent and child, husband and wife, etc. Each of these opposing forces makes his own claims. Characters are themselves responsible for this conflict. This tragic hero knows no balance and moderation in his demand. He is fully concentrated on one point. Antigone is determined to do her duty to her dead brother. Romeo is wholly governed by his passion of love. The end of this conflict is brought about not by chance or fate, but by the act of justice which conceals claims based on right. Difference between ancient and modern tragedy. In the ancient tragedy, the conflict arises from pursuit of ends, which may be called objective and not merely personal. For example, conflict between love and honor, freedom of thought, and prescribed rules. Subjects are taken from the quarrels of dynasties, of rivals for the throne of a state and church. In modern tragedy, the conflict is personal rather than of public and universal interest. Contrast between Agamemnon and Hamlet, the personality of Orestes. The modes of tragic resolution also differ in the ancient and modern tragedy. In the ancient tragedy, there is downfall of the combatants and ends in the achievement of eternal justice. The example of Orestes. In the modern tragedy, the resolution is difficult because the characters are more personal. In the catastrophe of modern tragedy, certain justice is present. Here, the personal destiny is emphasized. Under the influence of Bradley, the objective character of resolution was weakened. He laid emphasis on the self-division or conflict within the tragic hero, which brings about tragedy. Under the influence of Marx, the conflict of ethical forces was seen in social and historical terms.